With the release of Microsoft Flight Simulator onto Xbox Series X and S from July 27th, we'll be helping you reach new heights with 10 high-flying tips to help you get started on Game Pass Aviation. Now, if you'll fasten your seatbelts and put your trays into the upright position, we're ready for takeoff.
In most flying games, you'd probably feel pretty comfortable jumping straight into the action. Just work out which button makes plane go brrr and try not to bump into too many things. Simple. But Microsoft Flight Simulator places a much higher premium on realism, putting you in a cockpit filled with buttons, dials, and flashing lights, all of which become kind of important when you're 1,000 feet off the ground. So you're gonna want to spend a little time in training before you start traveling the world. Fortunately, the game's flight tutorial is there to walk you through how to take off correctly, land smoothly, and everything that happens in between. Best of all, it condenses the whole business down into 8 tidy lessons, all of which you can bash through in under an hour. It's just flying a plane after all, it's not rocket science. Once you've got a firm handle on the fundamentals, the challenges are a great way to ensure that your skills will hold up even in the trickiest conditions. Since the game has an option for live weather, it can take a turn for the worse at any moment, so being ready for anything can be the difference between a happy cabin of passengers or a long list of complaint forms.
Once you've worked your way through flight school and earned your wings, there are still a couple of things you can do to reduce the pressure of those first few voyages. Not the cabin pressure, mind. Reducing that would kill us all, just psychological pressure. First off, we'd recommend starting off in mid-air. Suddenly springing into existence way above the clouds might not sound like a very beginner-friendly approach, but it gives you a chance to get a better feel for how your aircraft handles without going through the tricky procedure of getting it up there in the first place. To do this, just set your departure point as anywhere on the map that's not an airport. When you're feeling comfortable enough to start with your wheels down, we'd recommend you select the option to spawn right at a gate, so you don't have to taxi your way there on a crowded airstrip. Then a good final training step is to go to the assistance menu and turn on the taxi ribbon to guide you straight to the correct runway. After that, the training wheels are fully off and you're riding all by yourself. Just remember, the red zone is for loading and unloading passengers only. There is no stopping in the red zone.
There's no shame in relying on your digital co-pilot while you're still learning the ropes or any time afterwards if it helps you relax and enjoy the flight. For example, running comms will appeal to gamers who just can't get enough of the phonetic alphabet, but others are gonna find it a little bit Delta Uniform Lima Lima. So fortunately, you can tag in your co-pilot to man the radio in your place. If you're struggling with the actual business of being a pilot, you can always turn on assisted flying, which basically just makes steering a lot easier, letting you enjoy the sensation of flying without worrying that an unexpected air pocket is gonna send you tumbling helplessly back to Earth at any moment. The difficulty and assist systems are also pleasantly fluid, allowing you to retool each individual aspect of the game to suit your needs. So perhaps you really love the full immersion of a highly accurate takeoff and landing, but would rather slip into a cruise control so that you can tuck into an in-flight meal with ease. Or if you're full chaotic evil, you can turn it all off, even the warning alarms, which I swear we've done more than once. After all, no matter what happens, you can always turn on AI control to let your co-pilot take over completely and bail you out. You can still take credit at the end though.
The game lets you pilot a huge range of aircraft, so getting to grips with them all and picking the right one for your journey is pretty important. The propeller planes make a natural starting point. They're small, simple, and relatively low power, so they're ideal for buzzing around in as you're still honing your skills. While they don't have the speed or the fuel capacity for a long journey, they are perfect for going low and slow in more crowded areas. So if you fancy swooping through the streets of your hometown for a closer look, a propeller plane might be the way to go. The turboprops are an ideal next step because they're basically the same but with a bit more juice. Once you're comfortable enough inside the cockpit to start feeling that need for speed, these nippy little guys are the natural choice. At least they are until the free Top Gun Maverick expansion arrives later this year. And then you've got your airliners and jets. When you've graduated to one of these bad boys, the world is your oyster. Just keep in mind that touching back down in an airliner is a whole different experience than landing a propeller plane, so you might want to give it some practice.
Once you've gotten to grips with the more heavy-duty aircraft, Microsoft Flight Simulator is basically a virtual passport to wherever you want to go. You can prove that the Earth isn't flat by flying all the way around it, or set off towards that country you've always dreamed of visiting. Unfortunately, the game comes equipped with a couple of handy tools to make the long-haul trips a little breezier. The Travel To option lets you skip directly between the various stages of your journey: takeoff, cruise, descent, approach, final, and taxi. So if you set out on a particularly epic voyage, then start to get antsy halfway through, you can jump straight to the end. The Travel To function is also great if you're looking to practice one aspect of the game. Perfect if you're struggling to bring those airliners in for a graceful landing. Alternatively, if you're setting off on a truly massive flight, you can actually increase the game's simulation rate so that time passes faster. Perfect if you're looking to go around the world but don't have 80 days to spare. I mean, who does these days?
Gliding through the great blue expanse of the sky is a great way to spend some time alone with your thoughts, but at a certain point, you might fancy more than clouds for company. So it's a good thing that Microsoft Flight Simulator lets you and your buddies play together. And that goes for both your console-owning amigos and the PC players in your crew, with crossplay guaranteeing that you can all fly together. Plus, cross-progression means you can hop between the two without losing anything. Of course, once you're up in the air, it can be hard to keep track of which of the little specks off in the distance is your good buddy Greg, and which one is your most hated rival, Tina. But if you turn on the Show Traffic Nameplates option, each pilot's gamertag will appear above them in great big letters, as well as their current altitude. So you'll know just where to fly to stay away from that accursed Tina.
With its meticulously recreated world, Microsoft Flight Simulator is just bursting with things for you to see, from historical landmarks to natural wonders, and if you like your sightseeing to be a little more lively, it's also full of live creatures for you to check out. To start your aerial safari, just go to the world map and type fauna into the search bar. It will then point you in the direction of all the game's creatures and critters, from the majestic elephants to the thoroughly unmajestic seagull. And the same tactic can also be used to track down all of the game's points of interest. That way you can buzz the Eiffel Tower, dive through the Grand Canyon, or just generally make a nuisance of yourselves in all kinds of iconic locations. Or if you fancy a more personal approach, you can put your home address into a search engine to find out its exact coordinates. Punch those into the game and you can fly right past your own bedroom window. That'll show those snooty neighbours who said you'd never amount to anything.
Whether you're spooking a flamboyance of flamingos out in some exotic location or just gliding down the street you grew up on, Microsoft Flight Simulator provides endless opportunities just to relax and take in the sights, especially with the Series X's pristine 4K visuals. Of course, when you've also got to worry about keeping a massive hunk of metal in the sky, it can be a little bit harder to unwind and appreciate the world around you, which is where the game's active pause button becomes a real blessing. Freezing the game without cluttering the screen with menus, active pause is perfect for enjoying the view and taking a few screenshots. You can even adjust the position of the sun and alter the weather to create the perfect snap. From the romance of New York on a snowy winter's night to the warm red glow of a sunset out on the plains of Africa. Active pause is also great for when you're searching for a particular location. Just bear in mind that if you do it while flying too low or slow, you'll have to be careful not to stall.
Microsoft Flight Simulator's world map is a real thing of beauty, using photogrammetry to craft impeccably lifelike versions of destinations around the globe. It's the perfect way to travel the world without having to put up with things like airport security, delays, and criminally overpriced sweets and chocolate. But if your internet speed isn't up to the task of streaming all that geographical goodness, you might encounter some turbulence along the way. For a smoother ride, you can always download entire regions of the map to glide about in, and you can even alter the level of detail which you download each area in to make the most of your memory usage.
Stepping into the cockpit of an airliner and seeing all those flashing buttons can be a little intimidating, and there is certainly a lot to get a handle of if you want to become an ace pilot. Turns out flying planes actually is kinda tricky. Who knew? If you're looking for the very highest level of immersion, it could be worth investing in the Xbox-approved Flight HOTAS 1 joystick, or Turtle Beach's recently announced Velocity 1 Flight Universal Control System. By allowing you to control the throttle separately, playing with a flight stick will give you an even more accurate representation of what it's like to guide an airliner through the sky. But the Xbox Elite Series 2 is also a great option if you simply prefer a more traditional console controller. In particular, the taller thumbstick it comes with and the customizing of the back paddles make an ideal fit for the game, allowing for more precise aircraft control. And you can also alter the button mapping to make controlling things like yoke and trim super comfortable, even if you're not 100% sure what either of those words mean.
That's it, you're now officially an Xbox On certified pilot. Feel free to wander down to your nearest airport and ask to take something out for a spin. They'll say no, and the police may have several questions for you, so yeah, actually, don't do that. Just go play Microsoft Flight Simulator on Xbox Game Pass. We'll be back with more tips for more games in the future, so stay tuned, sound off in the comments, and feel free to leave a like before you make your departure. Bye!